well as a larger pump to drive the auger motor. And on top of our auger motor, we have a sight glass that we need to check the fluid level in. If you can see fluid in the sight glass, you're okay to operate. We also have a dual horsepower setting. When you engage the auger, it's going to ramp to the higher horsepower setting so as to not affect your production, as the auger motor will draw some power from the machine. We're going to take a few minutes here now and explain how the auger works inside the bowl. The auger rotates and pulls the material up away from your cutting edge. It spreads it evenly inside your bowl and conditions the material as it's bringing it in. Your crowd has been specially designed to come forward and has wings welded on it that push the material out around the auger as it's rotating, giving you a nice clean bowl without harming the auger. An added benefit of the 627G auger scraper is it has a rocker switch installed in the cab which will limit rear tire slip. Now we're going to discuss the 623 elevating scraper. The major differences with the 623 elevating scraper are in the bowl. The tractor, walk around, and everything else, as we discussed prior, is the same. Inside the bowl, we have an elevating mechanism. We need to check the chain for proper tension, make sure it's not got a lot of slack in it, make sure our idler rollers are okay, our paddles are all in here, and we got a lot of bolts and stuff we need to make sure are tight. You need to give a good, thorough visual inspection in this area. Now we're going to look at the motor that drives the paddles on top, make sure it's not leaking anything. This motor doesn't have an external check as the auger did. It runs off the same hydraulic system as the rest of the scraper. We want to look at our lines, make sure they're not frayed, wearing through. Look at our fittings, make sure they're not leaking, and make sure nothing else is coming loose. We want to check here. We have an extra arm that holds the elevating mechanism in place. We want to make sure our bolts are tight here. Now our floor of our scraper, we want to look because we have a different router bit on this. It's longer to help hold the material in because it's an elevating scraper. We want to look at our floor here, make sure that all of our bolts are tight, our tracking mechanism is clear, our wheels that carry on the tracking mechanism are still there and functioning, and all the bolts on both of these are tight. This is important because on an elevating scraper, you can't push your material out with the ejector. It only comes forward halfway and then this floor slides out and lets the dirt fall out. It's important we make all these checks on both sides of the bowl. We're going to move back here now and look at our ejector. It's the same as our other scraper. We need to check our rollers and our cylinder to make sure it's all there. Some housekeeping rules for in the machine is you always want to keep all of your windows as clean as you can to help for visual purposes. You want to keep your dash clean, your gauges clean, of course, so you can see them. Once you're in the cab, you want to make sure your horn works, and this is where you'll turn your headlight switches on and make sure they work outside. To properly adjust your seat belt, just hook it up, pull it tight across your lap, make sure it locks. Your seat has 3 positions. It's 10 degrees, 20 degrees, and 30 degrees. Decide where you're most comfortable and go ahead and adjust it that way. You have a fore and aft adjustment for your legs to the pedals, and then you have an adjustment here that adjusts the ride of your seat, how springy it's going to be or how solid. You have an air adjustment. The air adjustment is for height adjustment only. Use this along with your fore and aft adjustment to get comfortable with the pedals and the steering wheel. The steering wheel has tilt for up and down, and also will telescope in and out some for your comfort. Well, let's get to operating the machine now.
The instrument panel features a quad-gauge layout with displays for system air pressure, fuel level, transmission torque converter, oil temperature, and coolant temperature. The electronic monitoring system EMS3 monitors 70 onboard sensors and provides important diagnostic and performance information to the operator. When the key switch is turned to the on position, all of the lights on the EMS panel will flash, the alert lamp will flash, and the warning horn will sound. The first level of warning indicates events such as a low alternator output or that the parking brake is engaged. This is shown by a flashing light on the EMS3 display. At the second level of warning, the action light is illuminated as well as the alert light on the EMS3 display and indicates that continued operation may lead to component failure. At the third level of warning, the alert lamp is illuminated as well as the light on the EMS3 display. In addition, the warning horn is sounded. Further operation may result in component failure. The operator should immediately bring the machine to a safe stop, lower the bowl, shut the machine down, and report the problem. Primary switches have been placed on the lower portion of the instrument panel to provide easy access. The mode selection switch allows the operator to toggle through the 7 display modes available via the digital readout on the lower portion of the EMS3 display. These modes are scraper engine speed, service hour meter, odometer, tractor engine speed, diagnostic scrolling, top gear select, absolute top gear, and hydraulic oil temperature. A combination Speedo tach features an analog-style tachometer, as well as digital displays for vehicle speed and actual gear indication. For tandem engine machines, another rocker switch located here is used to start the scraper engine. This is the scraper transmission neutral run control. This switch should be used if trouble develops with the rear transmission and the unit needs to be moved. With the rear engine running for lubrication, place the switch in neutral and use the front engine to move the unit to the repair area. This should only be done for emergencies and only for short distances. Tandem engine machines are equipped with an additional switch that allows the operator to display either the tractor or scraper engine information on the instrument panel. Also located on the instrument panel is a 24-volt cigarette lighter and a 12-volt power receptacle. Indicator lights to the left of the quad gauges show which engine's information is being displayed on the panel. Wipers and lights are controlled by a multifunction switch located on the left side of the steering column. To the left of the temperature control are rocker switches to turn on the air conditioning and adjust the blower speed. Two differential lock switches are available to the operator, allowing them to use either their right or left foot to engage or disengage the locking differential. Throttle and brake pedals are located to the right of the steering column. Tandem engine machines feature individual throttle pedals, one for each engine. An electronic transmission selector is located to the right of the operator. It features positions for first, second, and drive, as well as neutral and reverse. The neutral lock thumb control must be pressed to move the shifter from neutral. The operator can program top gear simply by pressing and holding the yellow button on the transmission selector when the selector is in drive. The gear display on the panel will sequence down until the operator releases the yellow button, at which point top gear for the transmission is programmed. The tractor features a planetary power shift transmission with 8 forward speeds and 1 reverse speed. Gears 1 and 2 operate in converter drive for increased torque capability during the cut and fill. Gears 3 through 8 operate in direct drive for improved drivetrain efficiency during the haul. The dual horsepower engine provides increased horsepower in gears 3 through 8 for enhanced haul road speeds. Reverse gear operates in converter drive. All gears from 2nd through 8 are selected automatically based on the ground speed. For tandem engine scrapers, the scraper transmission features 4 forward speeds and 1 reverse speed. All gears operate in converter drive. All shifts of the scraper transmission are automatic. Manual shifting of the scraper transmission cannot be performed. The transmission features a neutral coast inhibitor, which prevents shifting into neutral when coasting above 5 miles per hour. Directional shift management prevents abusive shifting and extends component life. Control throttle shifting synchronizes engine speed with transmission speed during shifting, extending powertrain life and providing smoother shifts. This rocker switch activates the parking brake. To disengage the parking brake, push the switch down. A throttle lock switch is located between the joystick and the transmission selector. It's used to lock the throttles down when operating in heavy rolling resistance or during long hauls, and allows the operator to rest his foot, reducing fatigue. All scraper controls have been incorporated into a single lever joystick. Bowl control is accomplished by moving the joystick forward to lower the bowl and back to raise it. Moving the joystick to the full forward position activates the bowl quick drop feature. Ejector control is accomplished by moving the joystick left to move the ejector forward and right to move it back. Moving the joystick to the far right position engages the automatic ejector return feature. An indicator light on the dash signals when the ejector is in automatic ejector return. The automatic ejector return will automatically disengage once fully returned, or it can be manually disengaged by moving the joystick to the left. Apron control is accomplished using the thumb rocker switch. Moving the rocker switch to the left lowers the apron and to the right raises it. Moving the switch to the full left position and returning quickly to the neutral position engages apron float. An indicator light on the dash signals when the apron float is engaged. The apron float can be disengaged by moving the thumb rocker switch in either direction. For the 623G, the elevator control is accomplished using the thumb rocker and trigger switches. Set the elevator speed and direction using the thumb rocker and then lock it using the trigger switch. Pressing the trigger switch or moving the thumb rocker will disengage the elevator. For auger scrapers, the trigger switch activates the auger. For push-pull arrangements, the trigger switch operates the bail. Thumb buttons operate the transmission hold and cushion hitch features. The transmission hold button allows the operator to maintain the current gear for enhanced control, and again an indicator light on the dash signals when the transmission hold is engaged. The cushion hitch improves operator comfort and productivity by absorbing haul road shocks while not in the cut or fill areas. An optional hydraulic retarder controls the speed of the vehicle as it descends steep grades, saving wear on the service brakes during long downhill runs. The retarder lever is located to the right of the steering column. Before operating the machine, make sure your seatbelt is fastened, the transmission selector is in neutral, and the parking brake is applied. Start the tractor engine by turning the key switch to the far right position until the engine starts. For cold starting procedures, refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual. Exercise the hydraulics by running the bowl up and down, the ejector forward and aft, the apron up and down or elevator forward and reverse, and the bail up and down. Check the steering and then check the backup alarm by selecting reverse. Note, you may want to check the backup alarm with the key in the on position without the engine running. Press the service brake pedal. Release the parking brake and lift the scraper bowl just high enough to clear obstacles. Select the safest, highest gear and release the brake pedal to start the machine moving. Although an open bowl scraper is capable of self-loading, it operates more efficiently when push-loaded by a track-type tractor. Using two tandem engine scrapers in a push-pull configuration further enhances loading effectiveness. Two push-pull scrapers can load in under a minute, making it one of the fastest, most productive loading tools available. Operating techniques vary slightly depending on whether you are push-loading or push-pull loading. Let's first discuss operating tips which apply equally to both kinds of loading. In most cases, you will load in second gear. Gears 3 and higher are best suited for hauling and returning. Load on level ground or at a slight downgrade to allow gravity to assist in loading. When loading in soft underfoot or hauling in heavy rolling resistance, use the differential lock to balance the power between the wheels and prevent wheel slippage. Many operators use the differential lock whenever they're loading straight ahead, regardless of the underfoot conditions. Never turn the machine when the differential lock is engaged because it can damage driveline components. Don't engage it while the wheels are slipping. Decrease engine speeds until the wheels stop slipping and then engage the differential lock before the wheels start slipping. Wheel slippage can increase tire wear significantly, so always be aware of what your tires are doing during loading. The apron height is critical when loading. The most efficient depth of cut is measured by the rolling action of the material in front of the apron. If the material builds up quickly in the center, either reduce cut depth or increase apron opening slightly. If the material is spilling out of the sides, either increase cut depth or reduce apron opening slightly. A good rule of thumb is to start with the apron open 12 to 18 inches. The cut depth can be gauged by checking the depth of the router bits. To keep productivity high, try to maintain the cut area as uniform as possible. Many operators use a technique called straddle loading. Simply spread your cuts far enough apart to leave a center ridge about 3/4 of the width of the cut. Then, on the next few passes, pick up the ridge. Material spilling over the sides indicates the bowl is full. Do not overload the bowl. It reduces efficiency and can shorten machine life. Some loose, dead materials require repeated bowl adjustments to keep the material flowing into the bowl. This is often called pump loading. In sand or other loose material, raise the bowl and close the apron more quickly. Use down pressure when closing the apron to reduce spillage. Control both front and rear engines by positioning your foot on both throttle pedals and depressing them at the same time. When making sharp turns, crossing ditches, or turning on slopes, ease up on the rear engine throttle while maintaining power to the front engine. On any tandem-powered unit, applying power to the rear engine while turning can create side thrusts on the tractor and can cause loss of steering control. Now let's discuss operating techniques specifically for push loading a scraper. On entering a cut, lock down the cushion hitch for better control of the cutting edge. Reduce your speed using the service brake or retarder. Make sure you're in second gear. The transmission will downshift automatically. After the transmission downshifts to second gear, engage the transmission hold switch. It will keep you in your present gear regardless of changing conditions. Open the apron part way. Make sure the ejector is in the rear position and engage the differential lock as you enter the cut. Lower the bowl to an efficient cut depth for the material being loaded. Maintain a steady speed while the pusher makes contact with the center of its blade on the push block on the scraper. Try to avoid high speeds or hard contacts. In good conditions, accelerate to between 1700 and 1800 RPM. In wet, low traction conditions, reduce power to avoid tire slippage. For the most efficient loading, keep the machine moving in a straight line and keep the pusher in line with the machine. After a full load, raise the bowl slowly to leave a smooth cut and close the apron. As we mentioned earlier, second gear is the best gear for loading virtually any material in any ground conditions. The only exception to this rule is when you're loading in very sharp, rocky material. For this application, we recommend you load in neutral. This is called dead stick loading. It allows the pusher to provide all the loading forces so your tires will roll over rocks without spinning or being cut. Keep the engine speed between 1300 and 1500 RPMs for good hydraulic control response and better steering. Now let's discuss operating techniques specifically for push-pull machines. When positioning the machines for push-pull loading, the operating techniques are slightly different. Never push or pull with more than 2 scrapers simultaneously. Triple push-pull loading is unsafe and will cause damage to vehicle structures. Teamwork is especially critical for push-pull scrapers since each